Hi, how's it going everybody, and welcome back to The Long Night. In this video I'm going to read to you a extended witness sighting report published in Paul Cropper and Tony Healy's 2023 book, The Yowie File. I want to read to you some more of these longer witness reports because I can't edit down enough of these reports into YouTube shorts, so it gives listeners who appreciate some longer form content something to listen to. I plan on making more of these videos in addition to my YouTube shorts in the future. And in addition to this, I've also got some other cool ideas for more content and other video styles, which I will be bringing out in the very near future. So there's definitely some exciting stuff coming here on the channel as a way for me to give back to you guys, my community, my subscribers. We're up over 4,000 now, which is just incredible, and hard to believe that I have over 4,000 of you guys now subscribed to my channel, considering where we came from 4 years ago. It's just an incredible achievement, really, and I'm so grateful to my audience and to you guys for sticking with me for this long. So I really want to give back and reward you guys for being channel members. If this video brings you any kind of entertainment value or enjoyment whatsoever, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel if you're not currently subscribed to it already. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this witness sighting report. Our first sighting took place in the late 1990s at Cedar Grove near Keiraville, New South Wales. The witness, Petra Van de Moosdyk, reported this remarkable episode to the Australian Yowie Research Institute on the 5th of April 2018 and was interviewed by Paul Cropper a few days later. The events occurred while Petra was house-sitting a residence in Cedar Grove, a cul-de-sac at the foot of forest-covered Mount Keira. That mountain, along with the neighbouring Mount Kembla, has featured in several Yowie reports over the past 140 years or so. Dense forest extends right down to the back fence of the block in question, as it does with many of the neighbouring properties. There is a ravine quite close by. The residence belonged to an elderly couple. The husband, a retired vet, mentioned something strange before handing over the keys. That they'd had visitors coming through the yard. He called them gorilla people, and that's about it. I wasn't shocked or frightened when he said that. I just sort of accepted it. He just said to keep the doors locked, including the garage door. Otherwise they'd come around and snoop, just to be careful. But I actually didn't expect to see anything, so I was surprised and shocked when I did. The first sighting. It was in the middle of the day. I went to check out their goat, which was tethered in the vacant block next door. I was talking to the goat and feeding it, and then I heard voices, like a whistle, or a singing, or something, and turned around, and here was this young person, this creature, all covered in white fur. The bush was quite thick, but there was an area of very thin trees, all very close together, and it had come down through there. I think it was heading to the fruit tree to get something to eat. It was pretty much halfway down the hill when it looked up and spotted me and sort of went, "Eee!" It did a U-turn and went off under cover quite quick. I watched it go through the trees, but in no time he or she had disappeared. I did not follow it. It was probably about 10 feet away from me. About 5 feet tall, maybe a bit more, equivalent to a teenager in build, in height, and probably in age as well. It wasn't muscly, but it wasn't thin either. The hair was white, fairly long. It was very shaggy. It wasn't pristine white. Pretty much if you had a long white-haired dog that needed a good bath. Its face was all covered in hair. I only noticed the eyes, and to me they seemed like they were going vertical instead of horizontal. like opening up. It had a short neck. I didn't notice any ears. The witness didn't detect any odor, and because she didn't notice any male genitalia, she got the impression that the creature was a female. Petra's second sighting. I was driving home in the early afternoon and crossed the cul-de-sac, slowed down, and was about to hit the driveway when I saw the same creature picking fruit and eating it. The tree was just off the road. He saw me coming and jumped down into a concrete gutter about 18 inches deep near the fence line, and I drove in and parked and walked back down. It was still there. I could see its feet and its calves and, well, the whole back. I couldn't see its face because it was lying down on its belly, hiding its face. It was lying very still, and I thought, should I reach down and touch it? But I didn't. It was very quiet, so it must have thought I wasn't there anymore, and it jumped back up and ran up the hill. Again, I didn't notice any odor. The third sighting. It was in the morning. I was at the kitchen sink. I could see through the glass doors onto the patio and up the hill. For those of you who don't know, who might be in a different country, a patio means a porch in Australian English. In the backyard there was a table, and I saw these two black creatures come through a gap in the fence, having a look to see if anyone was around. They were about 50 feet away. One was very short, and all I could see was just its shoulders and head. It could have been 5 feet tall or a bit under, but then again, it might have been crouching down. The other was a lot taller. I could see from about the waist up. It was probably the height of an average man, 5'6" or 5'8". They were both covered in black hair. I saw the face of the short one, and it was like it had big eyes, like if you open your eyes quite wide, and the mouth looked more like a chimpanzee's. You could say it looked quite a bit like an ape. It didn't have much of a neck, but the other one, the tall one, had a human neck. The short one was thick-set, and it would be quite heavy, but the tall one might have been the weight of a well-muscled man. I didn't see any male organs or anything. They walked upright. The short one sort of waddled like an overweight woman. I imagine it was possibly the female. The tall one walked normally. They stayed near the table. Then they saw me in the kitchen and decided they weren't going any further and went back. That was the last I saw of them. That episode lasted only 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. Now I'm going to read out to you a bit of an interview between Paul Cropper, the man who wrote this book I'm reading, and the witness Petra. Paul asks, "Did you tell the people who owned the place what you'd seen?" Petra: "No, I don't think so. I don't remember. I haven't mentioned it much. I told my mother and mentioned it once to my sister-in-law, but it's not something I talk about freely." Paul: "So it made quite an impression on you?" Petra: Yeah. I'm only glad I can speak to someone who knows what I'm talking about. There's a lot of skeptics out there, and you don't want to talk to people who don't believe you. While Petra struck us as being an honest person, and while the site of her experience is right on the edge of a vast mountainous area that has been notorious for Yowie activity since at least the early 1870s, her story is very curious in some respects. It seems strange, for instance, that the owner of a property, a qualified vet, would have had such a casual attitude of repeated visits by so-called gorilla people, creatures clearly unknown to science. He must have known that if he'd kept a camera handy and taken some footage, the story could well have set the world on fire. Petra, as well, seemed oddly unexcited by her experiences, somewhat indifferent to the importance of what she had witnessed. Interestingly, though, the strangest of all the strange things that she mentioned was that the young, white-haired creature's eyes seemed like they were going vertical instead of horizontal, like opening up sideways like a reptile's. And this has been mentioned in another case, which I will read out for you next time. But as always, though the night may be long, dark, and scary, we will make it through together to see the sunrise. Thank you for listening.